Hello YouTube world, this is Dantastic doing stuff. I am Dantastic and I am here to show you how to turn this into this for under $200. So here we go. Here are some of the tools you will need to put on a stick-on backsplash. I use Tupperware to hold all the outlet covers, flat screwdriver to get the outlet covers off, level, something to make a straight line with for your cuts on your backsplash, a marker to make a line with. I use a pencil to make my lines on the wall itself. Obviously a tape measure, and this is just a empty bottle, spray bottle. Put some soapy water in there to spray on the back of your backsplash. You really don't need it, but it does help. That way when you push it up there, you can adjust it for a half second before it sticks for good. And obviously you'll need something to cut the backsplash with, but we'll go over that at a later time. Step number one. Clean off your countertops, toaster, everything else you got on there. Clean off your walls, remove your socket covers, and then you're gonna have to figure out where you're going to start and where you're going to stop. I'm gonna make a straight line here, so you get your level. Put your level up here, make your line. Use a pencil so you can erase it if it's in the wrong position. So when you're choosing a backsplash, you need your correct measurements. Your measurements you're looking for is top to bottom. They have different size of backsplash. Unfortunately, mine is a 14-inch back from top to bottom because I'm not getting rid of that. It's close to 14 inches. Now, there are not a lot of 14-inch backsplashes out there. So with that said, we chose a 6-inch. That'll give us 2 inches on the top. So we'll have to cut a piece after we stack them. We'll cut a 2-inch piece for the top, and that'll make it out. Another thing you want to do when checking which backsplash you want is the length. There's all sorts of different lengths. There's all sorts of different heights like we already talked about. You just have to pick the one that's going to best fit your wall for what you like cosmetically and the ease of putting it in. Those are just a few things to think about while picking your backsplash. You see I made a straight cut with the saw out there. Put it up in my corner before I peel that back off. Make sure it looks good. I have the level. I'm a little bit off level, so that's something I'm going to have to watch as I continue putting these in. I'm not quite level here. Yeah, I'm off just a little bit. It's outside the line. But remember, you will put some silicone down here so I can cover up some of the gap. What I'm looking for is to make sure they look fairly level, and as I progress along, I can kind of give a little, take a little, whatever I need to do. Got a little bit of soapy water here, just a very little bit. Spray it on. Let me do a practice spray in the sink. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it was more of a mist. Spray it on, that'll give me a little bit more time to work with it. Push it in the corner, get my level up there. Make sure I'm in the lines. Doesn't have to be perfect, just in the lines. Now look at that. Piece number one installed. And here we go. Two tricks for you. One being use a black marker. I guess it depends which color your backsplash is, but use a marker to outline your previous spot and for when you install your next piece. In case it's not exactly perfect, like I told you, my wall's not level, so I'm going to have to give and take a little bit, so you may see a little bit of cracking in between, but you won't see the back because I'm going to use a black marker. Trick number two, when you do your first piece, which I had started mine from the corner, measure to your first outlet. That way when you get to the outlet, you won't have to etch around a piece of backsplash, but you will be able to just make one straight cut. See how that'll be one straight cut and fit right in there? You may not be able to do that all the time, but if you can avoid the etching, you're going to save yourself a lot of time in the long run. I realized I have not made a video yet on how to cut these. So I'm using a water saw with a diamond plate. It's not a saw like you would use on wood. I got a diamond blade on there. This slides in and out. You have your straight edge here that you can set these up against. 40 cable. They also give you one of these if you want to cut a 45, or if you want to make your 90 right here. Basically, you put it on, you know where you're going to cut, you line it up, and then the switch is on the back, and away you go. One thing you will want to do when you're pushing through is to push down on both sides. If you have pieces like this, you see they're not maybe an inch, half inch, half inch, they'll want to bow and warp on you. So by pushing them down both sides, you'll get that straight cut and you're less likely to chip the edges. When you're in these corners, I made it so I have a straight here. I cut so that was all the way underneath the socket was taken care of. And when you start, kind of figure out how you want to do it, where you want to do it. But that leaves me a straight edge here, easy to cut, not a problem. Now this is a pain. So I already notched it. Remember, if you're not really sure, take off a little less than you think. Come check it out. Go back and cut, notch, trim, whatever you have to do. So I bring it to the edge. I'm looking good on this wall. I'm not looking good on this bottom. Now on your trim, a lot of times they're not straight down. They're not 90s. They're coped in a little bit. So with that said, I'm not going to want to go out and just make a straight cut. I'm going to use that saw. I'm going to trim right here. And how to do that, if this is the saw blade itself, I'm just going to go back and forth. That's how you get, put that in there. It's still wet, that's why it's a darker color from the saw. That's how you get your pieces to fit in these tight spots. When you're going around light sockets, a little trick that I've done, and this is not a light socket, it's a Ethernet. You line it up. I did it earlier with the screw still in here, so it's a little bit easier that way. Then you make your mark all the way around. That way you know what will be covered and what won't be covered on your backsplash. So focus on right there. Like for instance, that's all covered. The second thing you need to know is when you add a backsplash, depending on how thick it is, your light sockets or light switches or whatever will not be the same depth. Because I just added on close to a 1/4 inch. Now yeah, you can put your screws in there and it'll work, but then you'll have a gap around here. To space the socket covers out from the outlets themselves, I ended up going with this. They are little plastic rubbery Lego-like things. You rip off and get you real close there. That's 2 stacked together. I ended up using 2. Have my dogs in the background wrestling. You pull these out. I have 2 in there right now. I was hoping you'd be able to see behind. Right here, you pull the screw out, push it behind, screw it back in, same with the top, and then eventually, oh, we got the bright sun, it evens out, even on that side, even all the way. So that's a good way to space those out, cheaper than the, coming back over to this one, cheaper than the frames that go all the way around. And these will work for multiple sockets. You don't have to buy special ones for any of the crazy or fancy outlets like that. I was so close to being done yesterday, but I had to go to a swimming event that took about 4 hours, so I ran out of time. But I did finish up today. What I did today was the top portion. Remember how this is a 14-inch gap here, and these were 6-inch, so I had to cut roughly 2 inches all the way around. I did measure each one because it was not a uniform 2 inches. The last thing that I will have to do for this job is a sealant. I did not do it when it was laying flat in the garage before I put it up on the wall because I only had one weekend. I wanted to get it done in that weekend, so I just decided to put it up on the wall and come back later, a later time, to put the sealant on. But you do want to put a sealant on your backsplash, especially around the sink, especially around the stove. So once that's done, job's done. Dantastic did it again, job complete. If you have any concerns about being able to do this job, just remember, if one person can do it, so can another, right?
Right.
And if it helped out,
like and subscribe.
like and subscribe. Thank you very much.